Hey all, just gonna wait for the stream to catch up so I can see if the audio is working. Well, the audio is working. Alright, just give a few minutes. I'm gonna give a few minutes to see if people show up or not. It's always better if people show up into the chat. Although, like I said on my Facebook page, a lot of these shows that I do is kind of self-therapy, really, because again, I don't have the opportunity to really talk to people. Especially, I've been really sick this year since June, and so it's difficult for me to go out and hang out with people. I haven't done that actually in half a year. Yeah, this year for me was not great, not great at all. Anyway, just give 2 minutes or so for people to drop by. While we're waiting, I'm just gonna briefly describe what I'm gonna talk about today. I'm gonna cover an article on climate change, and then I will reveal my top event, global event of 2018. Surprise, surprise. For people who really know me, it's not a surprise. That's all I'll say. And then I will talk about my favorite, well, I should say my top 10 films and TV shows that I have seen this year. So what it means though is that the production year is not necessarily 2018, but it's just I have seen these things this year. Most of them for the first time. So usually I have a huge backlog of things that accumulate. Man, I have some stuff that really goes back a while, so hey, stop it. Go away. Every Friday, and around this time, you guys starting acting up. So, where is my, here it is. Go away. Go away. Ah, cats. It's always, it's only 5 o'clock by the way here. And they're asking for food, and usually they have food around 6, so very annoying. They can't wait 1 hour. Free product placement. Alright, just give it 1 more minute and then I'll start. There's a lot to cover today, actually. I was gonna wear that Christmas hat, but I think it's really silly, actually, so forget it. For me this year, like I said, I am not in a festive mood whatsoever. It's been mostly just about surviving for me this year, so really no energy and no mood for the so-called holiday period. Plus, I mean, most people work anyway. A lot of people don't have holiday or time off for Christmas. So it's kind of diluted. Okay, I'm just gonna stop some of these things running here and we'll get this on the road. Okay, just don't want to have so many windows open, I don't want to get confused. And that should be it. Okay. Alright, so yep. Yeah, I got a haircut by the way, finally. I was able to at least get out and do that. That'll keep me going for at least 3 months or so. It's just a small worry, but one worry less, nonetheless. Okay. Ah. Good enough. Okay, just before we... Sure, stop messing around. Cats can be incredibly annoying creatures at times. At other times they can be very satisfying, but sometimes, man, animals. And so are we, of course. I was just actually talking about that the other day. I said, you know, we are monkeys. I mean, we were monkeys and now we're monkeys with screens. The mental evolution is very minimal. Yeah, you can talk about progress, but man, it takes a long time. Why is it so long and so has to be so painful always? Always progress seems to be forged in the blood of millions of victims. Only then there is progress. It just doesn't make too much sense to me. Alright, okay, let's get this started. So, this chair is a bit low. Alright, 3, 2, 1. Today is December 14, I think, right? Yep. Hey everyone, and welcome to Age of Reason, episode 36. This is the last show of 2018. Today is December 14th, 2018. I'm JC, and we have another exciting episode of Age of Reason today. I'm going to talk about climate change. I wanted to cover that last week, but it was already too much material, so I'm doing that today. And I'm going to finish the show by mentioning my top global event of this year, as well as my top 10 favorite films and TV shows that I have watched this year. So what it means is that the production year is not necessarily 2018. It's just I have seen these things this year. That's all. All right. Well, why don't we jump into that? Kind of spoiler alert there for people. Anyway. It's always going to be better in editing anyway. I don't expect many to watch the live stream, but it's always better if people show up and participate in the chat or something. Okay, I'm going to start with this article. Actually, just... Shh! Go away! This is incredible. I mean, they can be incredibly annoying. Shh! Stop it. Just take a rest for an hour. Come on, go away. Go sleep or something. Go to sleep. Not that they understand that, but anyway. Worth a shot. Okay, so I'm going to start with this article. It's actually from a segment on CNN, and CNN's Anderson Cooper cancels segment with climate report author to give Rick Santorum more airtime. We'll talk about that guy a little bit later in the show. So after being interviewed by Anderson Cooper, Katherine Hayhoe's interview about the latest national report on climate change never aired. And this is like one of the many reasons why I do not watch CNN. Man, there's so much poison on that show. Katherine Hayhoe, the director of the Texas Tech Climate Science Center, has been vocal about the Trump administration's shameful response to its own recent report on climate change. In part, that's because she helped to write it. Hayhoe co-authored the report with federal scientists from 13 different agencies who concluded that the US will warm at least 3 to 6 more degrees by the end of the century unless fossil fuel use is reduced significantly. The report also warns that sea level rise will result in mass migration and details how global warming has greatly exacerbated wildfires in the US. Yes, so, you know, this is not the first time I talk about climate change. But it seems to me that people really don't give a crap about it. There was a Gallup poll before the midterms, and climate change ranked just above the Russia collusion story. So people don't care about that. What do people care about? Well, people care about jobs, they care about healthcare, and it's always about me, instead of thinking globally. But guess what? This thinking about yourself is gonna impact you eventually. It's gonna get you. You can't just, isolate yourself from the rest of the world and think that nothing is gonna happen to you. Change is coming, and it's gonna affect you as well. Someone who is well placed to rebut the lies being put out by the White House about its report would seem like an ideal person for cable news show to feature. But cable news is, well, cable news. That could explain why a recent segment Hey Ho taped for CNN's Anderson Cooper 360 didn't air during the show's initial broadcast and instead got bumped online. So, yeah, of course, this is absolutely classic. So we have some kind of, breaking news, which often isn't even breaking news, really, because it's not very important, to be honest. So whatever they wanted to air then goes online. So people can watch that, right? So you're expected to watch the television and watch your cell phone at the same time. Talk about information overload. The show did, however, find time to air more climate-denying commentary from far-right former senator turned CNN commentator Rick Santorum. Priorities, right? So Rick Santorum, oh man, sweater vest man. It's really crazy that all the garbage ends up on CNN. So they pick up all that trash, and then people wonder why I don't watch the show. Yet instead of I'm gonna reread that, sorry. Yet instead of airing Hey Ho's interview on TV, CNN allowed Santorum to repeat the lie that climate change scientists are in it for the money. While acknowledging a crisis, Santorum told Cooper there would be no chair of the head of climate studies at every university in America if we didn't have a crisis. These people make money because there's a crisis. This is a ridiculous argument that's been debunked over and over. There's actually not much to debunk. People have a job, people get paid. What, do you expect people to not get paid? So they should kind of do a slavery or something? It's in a way like me then. So I have my book here, by the way, I'd like to promote it. Beyond the Obscure. Please get it. It's a great book, great read. It's only 100 pages. I know people have such a short attention span these days, but man, 100 pages, that will not damage your day much. If you want to read something long and boring, read the Bible. But anyway, this type of argument, I mean, I work for free. Actually, I do work, but it's absolutely on volunteer basis. I get no money from it unless people actually start to support me. And it's the same with scientists, it's the same with doctors. Of course you need to pay them. What kind of stupid argument is that? So we should not pay them? So try to stop paying doctors then, and then go to a hospital and see how volunteer doctors care about you. Anyway, throughout history, scientists have found it very tough to make a living. I absolutely believe that they're in it for the benefit of the planet. They're doing a service to the planet. It's not necessarily a career. And to be a scientist is not easy at all. You have to write many research papers, and they have to be peer-reviewed because otherwise it's not really serious. There's a lot of Christian scientists out there, but they don't have any papers published. So why should we pay any attention to what they say then? So that's how it works. Why is climate change important? Because it's going to affect everybody, and the cost of fixing these problems is going to keep increasing. So this is from another article, but it says here that in the period 1971 to 2005, since the beginning of a trend towards increased intense cyclone activity, losses excluding socioeconomic effects show an annual increase of 4% per annum. So every year you're going to keep adding and adding and adding, and eventually it's just absolutely unsustainable. And because the disasters will be on such a large scale, but there is no way that you're going to pay for it. And we're not talking about just even millions of people affected. We're talking potentially many billions. I mean, the majority of the population of the world. And then these people, where are they going to go? If their country gets flooded, they can't live there anymore unless they become some kind of aquatic creatures, which that's not going to happen. So where are they going to go, and who's going to have them, and why? We have perhaps a responsibility from a compassion point of view, but when you talk about countries and borders, these people have absolutely no responsibility for what happens outside of their border, really. Santorum became a CNN senior political commentator in January 2017 and is paid to regularly espouse right view. Okay, I'm going to reread that. It's been a long day. Santorum became a CNN senior political commentator in 2017 and is paid to regularly espouse right-wing views, only occasionally disagreeing with the Republican line. Media Matters for America pointed out that while Hayhoe was not paid anything for her participation in the creation of the NCA, Santorum received a lot of money in Senate campaign contributions from the oil and gas industry between 1995 and 2007. Well, of course, what else do you expect? Santorum also served as a consultant for Consol, a gas and coal company in Pennsylvania. Again, no surprise there. These people are absolutely in the pocket of the fossil fuel industry. They're actually there as almost a lobbyist for that industry. They should not work in that environment. Politics used to be a service. Now it's a career. That was really, she says, that was really the issue. I understand if something doesn't fit in the program and you have to put it on later, but to say a climate scientist is on clearing the air and fact-checking previous statements made on CNN, there's no time for that. But there is time for that same person to get on and provide further disinformation. That was the problem. Why did somebody give more air to say more false statements if you really are a news program and you care about factual accuracy? Well, because it's CNN. And CNN, since the last election, every day, they've been pushing this Russia propaganda story. Now, I'm not saying that there is nothing in the Russia story, but I'm saying it's going to be really funny if it turns out to be nothing. And then, because the Democrats, that's what they're banking on. They still don't have a clear message, really. Most of them anyway. I mean, people like Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, they don't have any vision whatsoever. These people are old. They just want more money. It's all about greed and power for them. It's not about caring about you. Yeah, the Republicans are bad, but so are the corporate Democrats. That's the point. Hayhoe went on to explain that interviews she was meant to conduct for All In with Chris Hayes in the past had also been cancelled 3 times. Once when I was literally in a chair with an earpiece in my ear. In July of this year, Hayes actually tweeted that climate change was a palpable ratings killer when explaining why one of her segments had been dropped for a breaking news story. So again, CNN, MSNBC, Chris Hayes actually is portrayed as one of the good guys, one of the better guys, and yet, again, he does not provide a service that benefits the population. He provides a service that benefits the network. And these people, by the way, Chris Hayes, Anderson Cooper, the entire CNN, MSNBC, these people don't need more money, okay? People like me do. Media Matters reported that in 2017, news shows failed to link major weather events to climate change, but devoted its climate change coverage to actions of the Trump White House. That's what I just said. And while wildfires devastated California, the media watchdog group found that in over 100 segments from those same networks, only 3.7% referenced climate change as playing a role. Well, I'll tell you what here. Climate change does not play a role in some events. At least there is no research to support that. For example, earthquakes. There is no apparent link between, the global warming and earthquakes. But there is a link, though, between that and hurricanes, that and typhoons, that and wildfires. And every year it seems to be getting worse and worse. In fact, seems is not the right word here. It is getting worse every year. Every year we're seeing an increase in the global average temperatures. And that has its own effects. In 2016, Media Matters reported that CNN gave almost 5 times as much airtime to ads for the American Petroleum Institute as it did to record-breaking temperatures in 2015 and early 2016. This didn't study... Okay, there's an error in this article, actually. Yeah, they should really hire some proofreaders. Hey guys, I'm free, by the way, so please hire me. I will check your articles. Just pay me something. This study didn't even include ads for Koch Industries that also aired during that time. When told about these last numbers, Heiho said, "You know what ad came on before my segment online? It was an ad for Shell." Well, of course. Again, this is not surprising at all. Not surprising at all. Instead, she believes the news could cover some of the positive steps being taken to address climate change, what she calls rational hope. She pointed to a number of instances in which small projects are being implemented to help transform a global fossil fuel-based society, including a town in Texas that relies 100% on wind and solar energy, Chinese wind company, etc., etc. Actually, there is progress. If you watched Al Gore's movie, Inconvenient Truth, the sequel, he mentioned a big solar project in Chile. Chile is also trying to be 100%, green, basically. So there are things happening, and nobody talks about them. There are exciting things. This is exciting when you're completely transitioning your power system, for example, from, this archaic burning stuff to a green energy, and nobody's talking about that. Nobody seems to care. If you start going out and looking for these stories, you realize that we could fix this thing, Heiho said. That's not a ratings killer. That makes you feel like, wow, I didn't know that. That's great. Tell me more. When asked why cable news seemed to neglect climate change, Max Boykoff, director of the Center for Science and Technology Policy Research, told Common Dreams that part of the issue with climate change reporting is that it can seem like a long-term, distant threat which can easily be overtaken by whiplash journalism. Yes, and I watched American TV from time to time. I watch Japanese TV from time to time. It is absolutely unwatchable. The amount of garbage that is fed, especially through commercials, is enough to make one person go insane and actually go on a killing spree or something. No, I mean, it's that bad. And people don't even realize it most of the time. A lot of the stuff goes into your subconscious as well, so you can't even control that information, all that, the noise and the sound, of course the images that you see. Hey, be quiet. What the fuck? Noisy cats. Gee. Shut up. Stop breathing like an elephant. You're like this tiny creature. Shh. And also, this goes back to the thing about the voters. In America, for example, the voters are basically like cats, actually. They are absolutely distracted by everything that's going on. So my image was always a cat chasing a laser pointer. It's the same thing with people. It's breaking news, even though it's not. And you just keep jumping from okay, just give me one moment here. I forgot to do that actually, but that's the good thing about the live stream, is that you can edit it. These people really have nothing better to do. Yeah, I'm gonna redo this bit here. It reminds me also of the American voters. It seems to me that a good comparison would be a cat with a laser pointer. It seems that they are distracted by every little tiny thing. I wouldn't even say story, because some stories are not stories. They're just absolute distractions. And people get distracted. People fill their heads with this bullshit, and then they can't make any rational decisions anymore. It's a brainwashing. It's absolutely brainwashing. These screens, all this information that is fed through the mass media, it's absolutely brainwashing. You have to be very intelligent, actually, to detect what is true or not. But most people are not. So they get confused in this big swamp of data. She concludes the article by saying that it would be ideal, in her ideal cable news interview, climate change is right here, right now, affecting all of us. And the more carbon we produce, the more serious the impact. But our future is in our hands. The choices that we make today will have a profound impact on the consequences that we experience over the next few decades and the rest of the century. We can avoid the most dangerous impacts if we act now. This is really important because it's a rational hope. By doing so, we will create a better world for all of us, where energy is abundant, where we have cleaner air and water, and a stable economy. It's a world that we want to live in, and that's what fixing climate change is going to do for us. There's a lot of, movies, TV shows actually, that show worlds in a post-climate disaster. You just have to watch these, and sure, it's fiction, but the problems that they face in these movies, lack of food, lack of water, wars, mass migrations, all these things are very real, and it's gonna keep happening, and it's gonna get scarier and scarier as we move into the future and no actions are taken to actually fight climate change. Well, then it's game over, really. Then we're looking at billions of dead. I think eventually, maybe the population will balance itself out. But again, do we really need such a large sacrifice in order to be more intelligent? I don't know. Maybe that's it. Maybe, humanity in general is really stupid, and maybe we do need billions of dead to actually achieve progress. Maybe that's the only way that people will learn. Certainly that's been the way that people learned in the past. I don't want to say that like that, but that's just what I see. I think that's all for this article. Yep. Okay, so the next thing, actually, I need to resize here just to make it a little bit bigger. There we go. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about my top event of this year. And again, the people who know me, it's not really surprising, but for me, definitely the event of the year was the launch of the Falcon Heavy. I think it was in February. There was a lot of hype around the event. Even Musk said that it might explode because they're trying new things and there's a lot of vibration, acoustic vibrations, and We just don't know what's going to happen. There was a lot of hype around the event, but it did deliver for once. A lot of things are hyped up but don't deliver at all. This did. And well, I'm just going to let you enjoy the final 30 seconds of the launch because, man, that was something.
T-minus 30 seconds.
Launch director on countdown 1. SpaceX Falcon Heavy, go for launch.
Falcon Heavy is configured for flight.
T-minus 15, stand by for terminal count. 10, 9, 8.
Side booster ignition.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Off. Go Falcon Heavy.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
Anyway, that's just amazing. I stayed up to watch this. It was around 5 o'clock in the morning in Japan. It was actually delayed twice. I was really kind of irritated. Well, irritated, when I say irritated, you know, of course I don't blame SpaceX or, man, the weather. That would be just stupid. It's just irritating a little bit because, you know, it's late and I have to stay up. But it's not so uncommon for me that I stay up to watch rocket launches. Anyway, it was delayed twice, and I actually thought it would be cancelled. So if it's cancelled, I think they would retry the next day. So it's kind of the same thing. Again, you have to reset your schedule for that. And eventually, they did launch it, and man, it was incredible. Then a little bit later on, I'm just going to skip a little bit forward, but there was another great moment here. Around here somewhere. Okay, here it is. So what they were doing, so the rocket itself had 3 boosters, right? And the 2 side boosters decouple and they land, and the center core was also supposed to land. Unfortunately, it crashed, but the side booster survived. And this is the landing sequence.
And that landing burn has started.
Both boosters looking to be on track towards their respective landing zones.
Landing burns have started. Side boosters landing legs have deployed.
And the Falcons have landed.
LZ1, LZ2.
Yeah, I mean, that was just a great show, you know. If anything, it was just a test launch. If people don't know, he just wanted to test out the rocket combination, and just for funs, just for shits and giggles, he launched his own car in space. So anyway, that was just beautiful. Why is it the event for me? Well, because the Falcon Heavy is a very powerful rocket. We haven't really launched something like that in a while. I'm just, yeah, the stream got red, so I don't want to lose the audio. Last time it cut out some of the audio, so. And since I'm here, I'm just getting a little bit too hot here. Okay, stream is green. So yeah, we haven't been able to launch something that massive in quite a while, and so what it opens the door to is actually launching very heavy payloads into space in the future, and this is all in preparation for the eventual trip to Mars, which I'm looking forward to. I really hope it happens in my lifetime. That would be a huge thing for humanity, but you know, look, when I say humanity, I'm only talking about a certain percentage of the population, because even if you went to the live chat during the launch, there were a lot of trolls that popped up, and some of them were just Russian trolls, which pissed me off because there's nothing to do with the launch whatsoever. And the second category were people who were saying, were basically wishing that, or hoping that it would explode on launch. What kind of fucking lowlife do you have to be to actually wish for a failure of such a project? That just says a lot to me about the majority of humanity. I wish that most people were, you know, good, well-behaved human beings, but I don't see any evidence for that. So yeah, most people are shitty, and I will change my opinion with evidence, but right now I don't see any. Let me get the mouse back. All right, and wow, I don't know which picture it is here. All right, let's start with this one. Now I'm going to mention my top things that I've seen this year. I'm going to start with number 10, and I have to say It. So this is the remake, and of course it's based on the book by Stephen King. Okay, I'm not a huge fan of horror, because a lot of the time it's very disappointing. It's not well done at all. It's those cheap tricks that they use all the time, like something popping up when you actually expect it to pop up. It's not scary at all. This movie, I was expecting it to be bad, or just as bad as anything else really, but it was a pleasant surprise. They did much better than I thought. Next is The Expanse. The Expanse, this was season 3 this year. So this continues the adventures of James Holden and the gang. The interesting thing here is that in the poster, they actually put Bobby in the center, and I thought she would become the main character this series, and she didn't, but she still had a pretty big role, and I really like the actress. She really did a good job here. Okay, I don't want to misspell that because then we're going to Japanese things here. Okay. At number 8, I got Kimi no Nawa. This is a Japanese anime feature film, and just the story is really strange. I'll read this bit here. So there's a high school girl in a region. She's bored with the country life and wishes to be a handsome boy in her next life. Strange already. She begins switching bodies with a boy in Tokyo when they wake up, and they start to communicate by writing messages on paper, leaving messages on their phones, and sometimes writing something on their skin. So of course when they wake up, they see what the other person wrote. So it's kind of this weird communication thing. That's just the beginning, that's just the setting. You have to watch this because this is a Makoto Shinkai film. He makes really, really good stuff. Stuff that makes you think about life in general, and that's my type of stuff. Next on the list, again, it's not new, but I only watched it this year. This is Steven Spielberg's Empire of the Sun with very young Christian Bale. John Malkovich is in there as well. A great movie about the Japanese occupation of China. I think it's in Shanghai. And so he gets also captured, a group of foreigners, and they go to a kind of internment camp. I don't want to use concentration camp because it's not, but definitely an internment camp. And, you know, he makes friends with some Japanese people there, especially a boy, and there's this whole emotional story there. Anyway, very good film. I do recommend it. I'm just gonna just need to check where I'm at because I don't want to make mistakes later. All right, at number 6, I got Spacewalker, but that's the English title. The Russian title is Время первых. Great movie about, it's also called The Age of Pioneers. So it's a movie with many titles. The movie is about the Russian cosmonaut Alexei Leonov, who was the first human to perform a spacewalk. I have a very low expectation of Russian films in general, but I have to say it is getting a little bit better, and this movie was definitely very, very good. I do recommend it. Okay, at number 5, and this is of course related to what I talked about earlier on in the show. It's a movie before, it's a documentary Before the Flood, hosted by Leo DiCaprio. Not much to say, you just have to watch it, understand it, and hopefully learn something. Look, it's climate change. It's going to be with us now, especially this century. This century is going to define many things. Just checking the number here. Okay. Okay, at number 4, I got Black Mirror. Again, not new. I was a bit worried when in season 3, I think they switched to Netflix, but I have to say it's still very, very good. I'm actually in season 3 right now, so I haven't watched the whole thing yet. Each story seems to be independent from each other, but they all offer some sort of critique of modern society. So most of the time you have to watch it and then actually think what it applies to. Sometimes it's absolutely obvious, and sometimes you have to use your brain power a bit. Okay, at number 3, I got a very unusual film. I usually don't watch these movies, but I will from time to time. Jet Li plays the father of an autistic son. And basically that's it. That's kind of their interaction in the movie. It's really, really beautiful. It's emotional. Definitely have a tissue box if you watch that one. At number 2, I have another Russian film. In Russian it's called Durak. It's translated as The Fool in English, but technically it should be The Idiot, because Durak in Russian is a bit stronger than just The Fool. But anyway, great movie. It's about an apartment building complex that is about to collapse because it's been neglected for decades. The main character goes around warning the people about that, but the people don't care. In fact, they beat him up. And the movie also exposes corruption in Russia brilliantly, in my opinion. And I would have thought that this movie would be banned, of course, but it wasn't. Anyway, it's a great watch if you just want to understand the level of corruption that goes on there at the highest level. But you know what, though? This type of corruption, it's not just, you know, Russia doesn't have a monopoly on corruption. This corruption also happens in the States and in Japan and other countries. Everything seems to be okay until someone gets caught in the act. And number 1, surprise, surprise, but I have Hoseki no Kuni. This is a Japanese anime series. I think it's 12 or 13 episodes, I can't remember. Going into this one, I had absolutely zero expectation. It was just one of those shows that I got to watch. And I have to say, just from the very first shot, with the music starting, and man, it's beautiful. You got this red-haired creature there that reminded me of Lucy from Elfenlied, which I absolutely love as well. Even though she's not the main character here, it's the other one, Phosphophyllite, with the cyan hair, who's the main character. Great story, very unusual story. They're all kind of rock elements. And so that means that they have different resistances. There are some rocks that are just more resistant than others. Others just shatter upon first contact. And this is only season 1. I don't really know where they're going yet. I know it's something related to the moon. The moon creatures are invading what's left of the Earth. And by the way, I believe that the Earth is destroyed by climate change in that show as well. So there you go. Or not, doesn't matter really. Just, I don't know what else I can say. I mean, look, you have to watch these things really to understand. But I'll just say that I didn't expect this to be my favorite thing this year, but it is. Definitely, I recommend it. And just to finish on the show on this note, I want to remind everybody to please get my book. There's going to be a small discount on ebooks for the Christmas period and New Year period. So please support me. It means a lot. And, you know, I would like to start on my next book, but I can't really start writing. Writing is not easy, okay? How many writers do you know? Personally, I mean. It is difficult, and it seems more difficult if nobody's buying it into the project. So, again, I don't want to be some kind of slave, just working my ass off for what? Just for my own enjoyment? I have other things to do for that. On that note, I do want to wish you happy holidays. I hope you guys have a break. We all deserve a holiday from time to time. We are not machines, we're not robots. We all need a break. It's important. Getting enough sleep is important as well. I hope you have a happy new year and a good party. Drink, of course, if you want, but drink responsibly, of course. And I'm gonna take a month off as well. I'm getting a little bit tired. There's still a lot of things to do. I still got a few shows to edit as well, and I'm working on 3D art, so my schedule is still full no matter what. But I am taking a break from the show, and I will see you about a month from now in the middle of January. So on that note, see you. All right, well, that's it for this year. Yay. Just gonna let it keep rolling because, well, it needs to, you know, the stream needs to record properly and stuff. I don't want to lose the audio at the end. The worst thing that could ever happen here is, you know, if I record the whole thing and then I realize that the audio is not on or something like that. That would be the absolute worst. I don't have a backup of this. And it happened once before on an older show when Jeremy was here. We had the, you know, these microphones, lavalier ones. But I also had backups that day. And then I realized that I forgot to turn the phantom power for these ones. So we couldn't use any of that. If you're doing podcasts, usually you have a team of people helping you out, and if you're just by yourself, then you have to make sure that you have some kind of at least mental checklist you go through. So in my case, I have this Tascam box here. I have to make sure that the volume is set. I have to make sure that the phantom power is set. Of course, that all the cables are plugged in. That's natural. And of course, on the screen, I can see the meter jumping, so that's always a good sign. And just kind of for information's sake, I know that I can make this format a little bit better. Man, I'm a filmmaker, so I definitely know tricks how to make things better. I could bust out the green screen and put it in the background here, but it's just my health does not allow me to do that at the moment. I have a gastric problem, and it's just a lot of the time I'm just not in a condition to do complicated setups, and at least I can do this. One big miracle this year is that I was able to finish my book. That was a huge effort. And the second miracle, I think, is that I was able to restart doing the show, because in my condition, yeah, it's really tough. By the way, feel free to ask questions or say anything in the chat while I'm still here. I don't have any plans for the end of this year. I'm just staying here. Like I said, I have a lot of work to do. I'm doing 3D art. There's a picture I'm working on right now, very complicated picture. There's a lot of stuff going on in there. I learned a lot of stuff as well. I learned, for example, that if you have a mirror in the picture, so rendering the reflection in the mirror takes ages. I would have thought it's you know, not that complicated, but apparently it is. So, and I do have a mirror in my scene, so you can imagine. I'm gonna close a bunch of things I do not need. The main show is finished for today, by the way. Just want to say that. If people are waiting for more, nope, it's all done. The good stuff is all done for today. I'm just spending time now online, that's all. I finally also got back to some gaming. Oh man, it's I think my health problems are, of course, a combination of things, but stress is one of them, and I totally didn't have time for any games recently, but I did get back to that at last. And so I've been going through my Steam list, and the list started at about 110 games or something like that. I'm already down to 95, so I got rid of those with mixed reviews, because it's true that, you know, I don't necessarily follow the herd, but in most cases like that, people point out some valid concerns, and I don't want to waste my time. Right now I have a few installed, but I can't seem to get the menu here. Anyway, these are just completely new for me, but I finished The Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit yesterday. It's a very short thing, just a couple of hours at best. Well, it's not bad, but just I don't really know where they're really going with it. I know it's part of this whole like Life is Strange universe, and I haven't played that yet, so I look forward to that one actually. Yeah, Life is Strange is one that I look forward to on the list. The others, I don't know. We'll see. If a game is like interesting but semi-interesting, then I would just play with the walkthrough, because again, I don't have much time, so I don't have time to walk around and look for clues or whatever. If it's a game that I do care about, then yeah, sure, I will do that. I will enjoy it to the fullest. But if it's just kind of 50-50, I just want to see what happens. It doesn't really matter how. Just a few more minutes and then I'm done for today. All the links that I covered today, by the way, will be posted later, so you can read the full article. I did not cover the full article, but you can read the full article later. As for the edit, I don't know yet. It's gonna be next week sometime. No, but I can close some stuff in the meantime here. Okay. It's one last thing to do later. Okay, I think I'm gonna end it here because there's nobody online. It seems like, oh, nobody's interacting in the chat anyway. I'm gonna end it here. So again, you know, enjoy your holidays and Happy New Year and all that good stuff. For me, it's just gonna be suffering as always. And I will restart the show at, I don't know. I can check the date now because, you know, it falls usually on a certain day. So that would be January 17th or 18th, I guess. Depending on how it goes. Man, I have a lot of news to cover that day. It's going to be not a week of news, but a month of news to cover. But usually this time of the year, nothing happens. So it's just recycled articles. If you go to CNN, BBC, stuff like that. All right, on that note, that's it. So, yep, see you next year, guys.